to stop and say, alright, love is kinda crazy with a spooky little girl like you. Hey guys, Gregory here. Today I have a really groovy song for you. We're going to be learning how to play Spooky by the Classics 4. It has some really interesting chords in there that really give it this bluesy sound that we're going to take a look at. But I'm going to give you two ways of playing it. One that sounds more like the original, and then a simpler version for those of you who may be a bit more on the beginner side. Now this song was a request by one of you, so if anyone has any song requests, feel free to leave that down in the comment section and I'll be sure to do a lesson on it as soon as I can. And of course, if you enjoy this lesson, be sure to like, share and subscribe, as it will help me to grow the channel. Let's get to the lesson. To start things off, we're going to need a capo on the first fret. If you don't have a capo, that's alright. You can do everything you see in this lesson and play it. It'll be just fine. You'll just sound a little bit lower than the original. Now I'm going to give you the chords in two versions. I'll give you some chords that sound closer to the original song, and then I'll give you some simplified versions of the chords in case you find the first way of playing it to be a little difficult. Alright, so to start with, and I'll start with the chords that sound a little bit more bluesy, a bit more spicy, like the original. The first chord that we have is an E minor 7. So we're going to put the first finger on the second fret, 5th string. The third finger is going on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. And then the pinky finger is also on the 3rd fret, 1st string. And we strum all 6 for this E minor 7 chord. Now, the second chord is called an A13 chord. I'll probably just call it A for the rest of the lesson. But there's a special way that I want you to move your hand to get to the A13 that should make it a bit easier to do. So where the 3rd and pinky fingers are on the E minor 7, what you're going to do is you're going to take those two fingers alone and slide them back 1 fret. So the first finger comes off and we slide these two fingers that are on the E minor 7 back 1 fret. And I like to now use my middle finger and put it on the 2nd fret, 4th string. And then that's our A13. And we strum 5 strings for this A13 chord. Right? So by keeping these two fingers down on the 1st and 2nd string, it really helps us to be anchored to the fretboard to make the change between those two chords a bit easier from E minor 7 to the A13 chord. Alright, the next chord that we find is, what is it? It's a diminished chord. Now, for the sake of having the capo on, it's going to be called B flat diminished. Yeah, let's go with B flat. It's also called A sharp diminished, but I'll go with B flat diminished. So once again, we're going to take a look at this chord coming from the second chord, which is A13 chord. So my hand is on the A13 chord, right? To get to the B flat diminished chord, all we need to do is these two fingers, the middle and the 3rd finger, stay put. The pinky finger slides across 1 fret to the 3rd string, so it hasn't moved from the 1st string. It's still on the 1st string, so the pinky is on the 3rd fret, 1st string. And now the first finger comes down on the 1st fret, 5th string. And we strum 5 strings for this very spicy sounding B flat diminished chord. Alright? Now the pinky finger is optional, you can take it off. And it should be fine. The 1st string, maybe you could try to avoid the 1st string. But even if you were to hit the 1st string, I think it sounds alright, okay? So that 1st string, you can either have the pinky down on the 3rd fret, 1st string, or you can just leave it off and just use the 1st, middle and 3rd fingers for this B flat diminished chord. Right, and the 4th chord that we'll need, which is the last chord we get before the song basically starts again on the verse, is a B minor, and we're going to use a special version of B minor called B minor 11. Now this B minor 11 comes after, it comes after the E minor 11. So once again, let's take a look at how to make the B minor 11 coming from the E minor 11. So let's put the fingers back on the E minor 11. First finger on the 2nd fret, 5th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and the pinky finger on the 3rd fret, 1st string, right? So we're on the E minor 11. To get to the B minor 11, the pinky finger comes off And the middle finger just goes down on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. So 2 fingers are common between the E minor 7 and the B minor 11 chord, which is the 1st and the 3rd finger. And we just add the middle finger and take the pinky off. And we have our B minor 11. All right, so that was a lot of talking. Please rewind and go over these chords as much as you need to. Take your time and practice the chords in pairs, right? If it's giving you trouble, just work on every pair of chord changes and then try putting them all together. It's a great way to practice new chord changes. So if you find those chords a little too difficult to play, I'm now going to show you an easier version of them. So instead of the E minor 7, we can play a regular E minor and it will look like this. Let's use the middle and 3rd finger for our E minor. Normally I'd say the 1st and the 2nd finger, but I'll explain the reason why in a second. So the middle finger rather comes on the 2nd fret, 5th string, and the 3rd finger goes on the 2nd fret, 4th string, and we strum all 6 for this E minor. Now to get to the A7 from the E minor, we just move the middle finger down 1 fret on the same, move it down a string rather on the same fret. So the middle finger goes down to the 4th string, and the 3rd finger goes down as well, but it goes down to the 2nd string. And we strum 5 strings for A7. So this A7 chord replaces the A13 that we did earlier. Now, after the A7, or rather I should say, the 3rd chord that we get, the B flat diminished, it comes after the A7. Now to get to the B flat diminished from the A7, as long as we're using this fingering with the middle and the 3rd finger, all we have to do is add the 1st finger to the 1st fret, 5th string, and we can strum just 5 strings, maybe even the 6th. Yeah, I think that should sound fine. And we have our B flat diminished chord. All right, and this is a really simple way to get from A7 to B flat diminished, as long as you use this fingering, but of course you don't have to use my fingering. You can use whatever fingering you want, right? Whichever one is the most efficient for you. So that's our B7 chord. And the last chord that we get comes after E minor. So if you were to go back to the E minor, well, to get to the B minor, it's the same B minor 7. We're going to put the 1st finger on the 2nd fret, 5th string. Middle finger goes on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. And the 3rd finger goes on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. And then we strum 5 strings for this B minor 11 chord. It's the same one that I showed you from before, nothing different. All right? So, I mean, okay, in this case of going from E minor with the middle and the 3rd finger to the B minor chord, there's a slight disadvantage where we have to move all of the fingers to get it. But if you want, if you are aware of this particular change coming, just for this last E minor to B minor, you can switch to your 1st and your middle finger for this E minor, so that when we do have to go to the B minor that comes right after, we really only need to move your middle and your 3rd finger, and it will feel a lot easier. So I hope that makes sense. Sometimes, you know, there's no definite way of playing chords throughout an entire song. Even I may change the way that I hold a chord depending on the chord that is coming next. It's a really good skill to have. So, you know, not everything I say is set in stone. Feel free to experiment with fingerings and the like. Let's move on now to the strumming pattern. If you need help with your strumming, I have 2 things for you. The first is a very quick lesson on strumming technique, everything that you need to control your strumming hand and the way that it sounds. But if you're looking for something way more in depth, I have a full course on strumming. It goes through everything you need to improve the way that you sound overall. Check them out down in the description. Similar to the way I taught the chords, I'm going to give you 2 versions of the strumming patterns in this song. I'm going to give you a simplified way of playing it, and I am also going to give you a way that sounds a bit closer to the original. So let's start with the way that sounds a little bit closer to the original. I'll play it for you first on the E minor 7 chord, and it sounds like this. After 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for most of the song, that strum really happens over 2 chords. It happens over the E minor and the A7 chords in most of the song, right? So it should really sound like this. but for the sake of just practicing the right hand, let's just stick to one chord, the E minor chord for now. If you want, you can do it on the regular E minor chord. Either one is fine. I'm just using the E minor 7, all right? So there is a mute in that strumming pattern, and it happens on the second part. So if I was to break the strumming pattern into two parts, the first part goes like this, right? And that was down, 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 up, down, up. And the second part goes down, up, mute, down, up, down, up, right? So that mute is really just my hand resting on the strings, but very importantly, the pick lands above the strings, because right after the mute comes a down strum. So you don't want the pick to land below the strings so that you have to raise the pick to then do a down. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, okay? So make sure that when you do the mute, the pick lands above the strings so that the down follows. All right, so let us first practice it in two parts, and then we'll practice putting it all together, and then maybe we'll practice it over two chords as it sounds throughout most of the song. So strum alone on two parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, let me say that again. I'll say what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 up, down, up. Next part. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. All right, one more time in two parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 up, down, up. Next part. Down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Now let's do it in one run on the same E minor chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. All right. Now let's do it over the E minor and the A chord, right? In my case, I'll use the A13 chord. You can use the regular A7 chord if you want. All right, now the same way that I broke up the strum into two parts, the E minor happens over the first part, and the next part happens over the A chord. All right, so let's see how it sounds after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Again. 1, 2, 3, E minor, boom, ba, ba, da, A, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Right? So that's pretty much it for the strum. The last thing I'll do for now is I'll just play those two chords over and over so that you can get used to the sound of it, and as well you can practice with me. Let's go after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, A, E, A, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, mute, down, up, down, up. Right. One little trick you can do is, if you can manage to think of this extra step, because I know it may be a lot for some of you, a lot of times it's very common to change the chord coming to the end of the strum. So on the last up, you can begin moving towards the last chord. So don't wait for the strumming pattern to finish completely before your hand starts to move. It actually, my hand tends to move around that last up. So it goes, right? And I happen to do that strum on the up. But this is an extra step. Like I said, if it's too much to mentally juggle, leave it out for now and just do whatever comes naturally. Right? So let's take a look at the simpler strum next. So the simpler strum will sound like this. I'll play it just over the E minor chord. I'll use a regular E minor this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so I played it twice, and that was 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 up, down, up, right? Just twice in a sense. So if I were to play it over the two chords, the E minor and the A7, I'll use the regular A7, it will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, E and A. That is down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. And that simplifies things quite a lot. So let's just practice it on E minor and A7 a couple times after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And E, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, E, and E, and down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. So that's it for the lesson. Be sure to go back to the start of this video so that you can take a look at the playthrough and see how to put everything together. There are a few stops in the strumming pattern which really shouldn't be too difficult for you to implement once you get the hang of the strumming in the right hand. So if you have any song requests, like I said, leave them down in the comment section and I'll be sure to do a lesson on it when I can. And of course, as always, if you did enjoy this lesson, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel as it will help me to grow. But until next time, goodbye.